There it is.
Hello and welcome to the Landscape Photography episode 23 Landscape Photography Show Monochrome event. And we had a few Google gremlins. Thank you for hanging in there. And you're going to see all of us in black and white tonight, which is going to be very fun. I am Cara Riley, a co-curator on the Landscape Photography theme page with all of our panel members, and also a small business consultant and founder of the Photo Tour Global Directory website where consumers connect with photographers around the world. And so tonight we have a wonderful guest who is going to be sharing monochrome information, tips and tricks from Neuchâtel, Switzerland. We're going to have Charles Lupico, who everybody knows, and we're just really excited about that. And so we'll get started here. I'm going to turn this over to Margaret, and she'll be sharing some information, more information.
Hi, everyone. I'm Margaret Tompkins. It's really great to have you here this evening. I think this is going to be one of my favorite shows that we've done. We have a wonderful guest for you this evening, and we're going to be learning a lot about monochrome photography and how to do black and white. So we're just really thrilled with what we have for you this evening. I'm a retired and an amateur photographer living in Kansas City, Missouri, and we are just delighted with our show for you tonight. And we're starting with our show starters this evening, and Kevin is going to get us started with those. So Kevin Rowe.
All right, great. And in our scramble to get going here, I forgot who picked what. So I've got one up there, and whoever picked that, go ahead and tell us about it. Anyone? This is Thomas Welborn. Who picked Thomas Welborn?
Oh, here we go. Let me get, we had Margaret up on the blue box here, so I'm trying to get, there we go. Thomas Welborn is a photographer from Oklahoma, and this had the feel of the, what we had gone through with the HDR and the long exposure, and the water is just so smooth, and you can feel those clouds moving, and Thomas is somebody you want to look at and follow. He just does some amazing work. So great to start with that. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, and this is the one that I chose, and this is Christian Rogers. And this is kind of an iconic shot. We're by Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And the Tetons in the background, and he did a great job of converting this to black and white, and I love the sun beams coming out, and that really is accentuated by the black and white, I believe. So great job, Christian.
And that one's mine, Khun Hans. And I gotta say, it was so difficult to choose this one. There were so many outstanding photos entered to the event, but I really liked this one. I like the misty look of the landscape, the layers of depth that are there, and you know, his exposure is spot on. So very well done.
Great, thanks. Oh, and something happened there, so let me move to this one. This is Margaret.
This is the one I selected. This is a photograph by Steve Holderfield, and it's an iconic image of Half Dome there in Yosemite. And to me, this one just, I feel the cold in this, and it just draws me in, makes me want to go pack my bag and head for Yosemite. So just a gorgeous, wonderful, well-done photograph of Yosemite. I absolutely love this one. And Jim was right. It was so difficult to select these. I think we had over 500 entries.
Great. Beautiful. And Charles.
Yeah, this is a photo by Dave Tomek. He's down under. And I really, most of the work that he shares is really heavy HDR, and and bringing color in. So this is really a counterpoint to that. And I just love the lines of this tree. It's just so gnarly, and it's like I could just reach right out and feel the texture of the bark, and sense the wind blowing through my hair. So it's really a very impressionant photo to me.
All right, great. And Tom, I have your share, but somehow it got switched there when we were doing stuff. So why don't I go ahead and find that, and right before I talk again, I'll show that and let you quickly tell us about that one. Okay, Tom?
Okay, that's fine.
And then, so from here, let's just get right into the show, and we'll start with Jim Worthman, and take it away, Jim.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. So I'm an amateur enthusiast photographer based in Phoenix, Arizona. Do mostly landscapes and assist as a curator in the landscape photography theme. I love monochrome, especially printmaking. And my monochrome work goes back to high school, where I was, first into some serious photography and shooting black and white 35mm medium format, and processing the film and making prints in a wet darkroom. So my monochrome days go way back. Fast forward to when I got my first DSLR around 2000, and doing digital monochrome was a revelation. Like most everyone else at that time, I was using Photoshop and a variety of techniques to convert the color captures into monochrome. Over the years, I've tried a number of different plugins. For the past couple years or so, I've really settled on Nik Silver EFX Pro for doing my conversions. Not sure it does anything that Photoshop can't do, but it gives you amazing controls that you can do quickly. So I really, that's just a little bit about workflow. But now I want to talk just at a really high level about what is this monochrome thing about anyway? What makes it different? Some people love making and looking at monochrome images, others not so much. Some people just would rather not even look at monochromes. Three specific things I want to touch on here tonight. Not every photo that's color will work on color to make the image. And I'm going to share my screen and show you a little bit about what I mean. So here's an example where it's kind of an okay composition, but the color really makes it pop. And if you convert it to monochrome, well, not so much. I mean, it's not bad, but it doesn't pop like the other one. Another good example, fireworks in color. Those can be kind of engaging, but then again, you convert it to monochrome, and it's okay, but it just doesn't have the pop that the color one do. Here's something near and dear to Kevin's heart, Delicate Arch in Utah. And again, the color version just sort of jumps out. The color is an important part of the photo. And you convert it to monochrome, and it really does lose something, I think. Last example, fall colors. So here's just a kind of an abstract, but the colors are real important to making an image that works. And when you look at it in monochrome, again, it loses something. So just because there's a photo that looks really nice in color doesn't mean it's going to hold up in monochrome. So monochrome can really be more challenging to do well than color. Without the color, you rely on a compelling composition or forms or textures or contrast to captivate the viewer. And so now I'm going to show you a few that I think work pretty well in monochrome. Not to say that they wouldn't work well in color, but the monochromes have a lot of interesting forms and texture that I think can hold attention. Okay, another iconic Sedona shot, but again, in monochrome, I think it works just as well as it does in color. And here's another one that shows what you can do with details in monochrome, especially if you get snow. It can really help pick out a lot of features in the landscape. Now, next thing I want to talk about is monochrome doesn't mean necessarily the absence of color. You know, a lot of times we equate monochrome with black and white, but oftentimes photographers will tone the image. And you know, this started way back in wet darkroom days. It was common to do sepia or platinum toning, and today you can do similar things in the digital darkroom. In fact, we had a whole bunch of toned images submitted for the event, for the show: sepia, green, yellow, even blue images. And so here's another example. This one has kind of a blue tone. I don't tend to tone things real strong, but you know, enough that you can see it's not just black and white. Okay, that's it. And now I think Tom is up next.
I'm going to jump in here with just some questions for you all to answer. We had one question about filters and how using filters to make the contrast in the sky, and then the second question here is for black and white printmaking. Is there a good inkjet which excels? So now I'll let you go on, but that's what we have from our audience, and we thank you for asking the questions, and we'll get them addressed.
Well, so I'll jump in with the second question. As far as printing goes, you know, any Epson, Canon, HP all make spectacular photo printers. If you want to do monochrome, you want to look for a printer with 2 or 3 or more blacks and gray inks, as opposed to just a single black ink. And also, if you get really, really serious about it, a lot of people will convert a normal color inkjet to strictly monochrome, and they'll use 7 or 8 different shades of black ink. But you'll get decent results from any of the current high-end inkjet printers.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, I'll jump in and add some to it. My preference for if I was going to do printing myself, I would buy a Canon Pro 1. Not a cheap option, about $1,000. But it does have 5 black.
Hi, we're back, and there are so many apologies for the Google gremlins this evening. Several timeouts in the Hangout on air, and so we'll try and edit this back together. And thank you for your patience, and we sincerely appreciate for all of you who've participated in this event. And now we're going to go right to Tom from Carmel. So Tom will take it away with more tips on monochrome photography.
Thank you, Kara. I'm Tom Hurl, and I'm a curator on the landscape photography theme. And I live, as Kara said, I live in Carmel, California, on the Central Coast. And let me pick up to where Jim had left off. I think I'm similar to Jim in the fact I used to do a lot more black and white photography when I did film, but as I progressed to digital, I found myself doing less and less. And in fact, it's honestly, you know, a much smaller percentage of what I do. It's mainly color, but I think there's 2 circumstances where I'll do black and white. In a scene where it perhaps is a kind of a overcast day, everything looks kind of muddy, the colors aren't very vibrant, but maybe the scene's got a lot of interesting textures. It's hills or rocks or something. That's kind of an ideal for a black and white. And so I'll take the picture knowing ahead of time it's going to be black and white. I'll plan for it black and white because I know enough to know that an attempt at a color rendition will be hard to pull off just due to the flat lighting or subject or whatever. So there's certainly a percentage of what I do knowingly black and white. The other half of my black and white are ones that perhaps I intended to start out as color, but frankly I just don't like the way they look as color. And so I'll reprocess black and white, and you know, often I'll make a copy of each, and I'll look at it the next day and decide that I like the black and white a lot better. So that's how I tend to approach the black and white. Let me share my screen now. I'm going to show some images tonight. that are black and white, but they're done using HDR. Now, we often think of high dynamic range processing as very bright colors, sometimes too bright colors, too much saturation, and not that many people focus on using high dynamic range for black and white, but ultimately you have the same dynamic range issues. You're going to be a very bright area, a very dark area, and you can certainly well apply high dynamic range processing to a black and white photo. And if you look at your packages, whether it's Photomatics or the NIC HDR program, you certainly have options to process as a black and white photo. So I'll show you some examples here, and you can get an idea. The first one happens to be Mesquite Flats in Death Valley, and this was one of those shots I tried to do as a color, and it was okay in color, but then I processed it as black and white, and frankly liked it a lot better. I like the dark birds and the tree outlines and all the texturing of the dunes and all. So next shot here is from the Devil's Golf Course in Death Valley, and again, here the clouds are great in black and white, and also the textures of the rocks in the foregrounds. The golf course portion is also came across very well, I thought, in black and white, much better than color. Third one again is from Death Valley. This is Zabriskie Point, and again the hills have such interesting contours and texture to them. Fourth one is from Artist Palette Drive, and again I like the dark road snaking through the lighter surroundings here. Moving on to Yosemite, here's a kind of a standard view from Valley View of Yosemite, and again, it was done in black and white. Certainly, there's been a lot of great black and white photos done in Yosemite Valley. Here's El Capitan in Yosemite. I have a sweet spot for Yosemite, as I know Margaret does, and it certainly does. Looks good in black and white with the all the granite and the darker sky. It's a great place to shoot black and white. And then finally, this is Yosemite Valley looking down from Glacier Point. Again, an example of what you can do. So that wraps up what I was going to show tonight. Thank you.
Beautiful, Tom.
All right,
Yeah.
great. Okay, I'll jump in here, and just real quick, I didn't have Tom's show starter up at the beginning of the show, so let me just show that real quick. And there it is, Tom.
Okay, well, this is from Jani Westman, and as I said earlier, like Margaret, I like things from Yosemite Valley. This happens to be El Capitan from the other direction of the shot I showed, and I really like the detail, like the tree in the foreground and the river. So this shot appealed to me.
All right, great. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Kevin Rowe, and I'm one of the curators in the landscape photography theme, and I'm a mortgage loan officer during the day, and my passion is photography, and I really enjoy getting my photography gear on my back and heading up into the mountains and doing a lot of hiking and taking pictures that way. And so let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm kind of the new guy to black and white. I haven't ever liked it that much, or not that I didn't like looking at it, but I haven't liked it in my own photos. Recently, actually, it was just after I got the NIC software plugins, and I started using Color Efex Pro, that I actually started enjoying it a little bit. And let me just share a couple of the ways that I do it. So if you've got Lightroom, I find this to be a really quick tip. And what I do is I go through and I look at pictures that I already like. I like this picture in color, and I don't know if I'd like it in black and white, but on Lightroom, you have these presets. So if you go into your presets, and then you've got this thumbnail here, and that might be a little small on the screen, but hopefully you can see that. But if you just hover your mouse over these presets, you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like in black and white. So, you know, on this one, I said, yeah, I think that would look pretty good. So I took it into Silver EFX Pro and came up with that. And then the same thing with this one. I really enjoy the black and white with buildings. I think the lines and things make it look really nice. So I took that one into Silver EFX Pro, and I like that better than the color version. Same with this one. Just did that same method, and the lines in it, I thought, well, that might look really good as black and white, and I took it to there, and I actually like this one as black and white better than the color.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, there are a few that I've taken photos of, and I just can't get it to a point where I really like it. I'm like, you know, I just didn't like this, so I thought, why not try it as black and white? So I put it into black and white, and I thought it's a pretty interesting shot now. And so that's what I've done. I've just kind of went in and played around with it a little bit, and hopefully hopefully I can continue to learn, and I'm hoping to learn something from Charles here, and that's the end of mine. So Margaret, we'll go back to you.
Thanks, Kevin. We all, I think, are hoping to learn from Charles Lupica here tonight. He certainly is one of the foremost black and white photographers on Google+. I could sit here all night and really say great things about Charles, and I think all of us could. I first met Charles, I was new to Google+, and he was one of these kind, mentor kind of people, and I started curating Sacred Sunday, and to this day that has been one of the most pleasant, enjoyable experiences that I've ever had on Google+. So I thank you for that, Charles. It was a wonderful time, a wonderful experience, and I learned more from you on Google+ than I have from anybody. So he's a mentor and friend, and an expert in black and white photography. So if there's anyone on this planet who is not following Charles Lupica, they need to be doing it. So definitely make sure that you do that. If you get a chance to pick his brain, certainly do so. There's a lot of wonderful talent there, and I'm so glad that he came with us tonight, or really, what is it, in the middle of the night? Where Charles is at, so he's given up his rest to come and join us tonight. So I'm so grateful that you're here, Charles. It means so much to me and to all of us. So please, hope everyone will enjoy this, and welcome Charles Lupica. So Charles, the floor is all yours.
Wow, that's a lot to live up to. Thank you.
It's all true.
Well, you know, I guess you know, I listen to other people talk about black and white, and I suppose I see it differently. People tend to enjoy black and white and mix it with their color, or they're evangelists. You know, they eat and drink and sleep. You know, they dream in black and white, and so, you know, if I hear people saying, well, you know, I look at my pictures and think about whether, you know, they're better in color or better in black and white, I look at my pictures and say, that's not going to work. And you know, I don't even really think about the colored pictures anymore. It's sort of like, well, why would I want to have that in color? But anyway, for my own history, I started out photography a long time ago, and you know, I've been married over 30 years, and for most of that time my wife always took all of the color pictures and I always took black and white. So it was kind of like this division, you know, she'd take all these wonderful color images and I'd take nothing but black and white. And that continued that way until 2007. I was still shooting film in 2007. But we went to Portugal, and it cost me about $50 a roll to shoot black and white. And that was a turning point for me because I got to looking at it and I said, you know, every time I snapped the shutter, it cost me $1.50. And it just didn't make sense anymore to continue to shoot black and white and to shoot a film camera. So I bought a digital camera. But the downside of the digital camera was people that really are deeply rooted in black and white. When they put a black and white film in their camera is black and white. When you pick up a digital camera, it's color. It's always color. Now there's a monochrome mode, but it takes the picture in color anyway, so it's still there in color. And when you load it into Lightroom, it comes in color. And it's like, yes, but I took it as a black and white picture. So it destroys your thinking. In a way, it alters your sense of pre-visualizing your images in black and white when you're taking them, because you're no longer seeing in black and white, you're now seeing in color, and it makes the process really difficult. So from 2007 to around 2011, I took practically no black and white, almost zero. Everything was in color. Most of the pictures for my book of the local 1,000-year-old church, they were all done in color. But somewhere in 2011, I felt a need to get back to my roots, to re-explore black and white photography, and so that's what I've been doing for a good bit of the time that I've now been on Google+. At the end of last year, I got, when communities first started, I launched a black and white photography community. And that wasn't really enough because there's just so much flowing through those communities. It's really hard to interact with people and to really, how do you interact with 25,000 people in a community? So I wanted something more personal, and I decided to create, I enrolled in Robin Griggs Wood's mentorship program as a mentor in training. And out of that grew the idea to start a community that was focused on learning to improve our black and white photography. And so that's what I've done for the last year. Margaret was in that for a little while, and a number of people have come and gone. But there's generally a group of about 80 people in a completely private community, and we focus every week on a new assignment on how to improve our black and white photography. Sometimes it's things like doing pet portraits or low-key photos, high-key photos. Sometimes we're doing rules of composition, which is last week we revisited all the rules of composition. This week we're revisiting how to break all of the rules to get better pictures. But one of the cornerstones of the community, and one thing that you don't see a lot of on G+, is the cornerstone of the community is in sharing our workflow. So we're very open about how all of these images are created. And a lot of times the images that I might share openly on G+, I don't really want to tell people how I arrived at those images, because they have a certain perception of you've gone out and you've captured this really super image, when in fact most of the magic has taken place in the digital darkroom. And I'll share a photo with you that has gotten some fairly good attention on G+. And so here's a photo strip. And the top picture in the strip is the original. So you can see it's okay. What can I say? Now, completely, absolutely gray sky. So what I've done here is a few weeks ago, a month or so ago, I was went out to the glacier to take some pictures of the glacier, one of the big glaciers here in Switzerland. And while I was there, I took some long exposure photographs of the sky. And then I dug up this old image of the red church here, and layered it with the images of the long exposure image from the sky, and then turned those layers to black and white through a series of different filters and stuff. Now, in addition to all of that, there's a lot of cloning going on here. There's a group of children here that I've removed, a fire hydrant over here that's been removed, a set of trash cans over here that have been removed. And after I finished all of this, I didn't really like this version of the picture, so I actually had to go back and basically redo it all over again. But it's one of the, as I said, one of the hallmarks of our black and white photography learning community is sharing workflow, and part of the benefit to me in having done that is I'm a lot more conscious of how I arrived at an image. So it's much easier to go back and redo the process. So I've seen many people say, well, I love this image that I've created and it was all this work, but I can never recreate it again. And you know, that's really kind of sad in a way, that you can't recreate the image. So I'm becoming much more aware of my overall workflow, because I tell people all the time that this is what I've done. Now, for this particular image, and let me see if I can actually find, looking in my collections, I have a much bigger image of this. So I actually have, let's try this one. So there's this, and then there's a similar one. Let's see. I should be able to actually do a compare here. The Lightroom's taking its time. Let's see. Well, I don't see the compare button. I'm not sure. I don't have my secondary window. Anyway, there's two different skies here. There's this one, and a different set of clouds, this one, and also a little bit difference in the toning of them. Let's see. Here's the original image, already partially cloned. You can see the trash can's gone, some other things are gone. So this is partially finished because this is the blue version. And you can see it's much more stunning now that that gray sky is gone. So you can't always count that the gray sky is going to be a problem. Sometimes it's your best friend. So for my workflow, let me see. I want to stop screen sharing, so I'll come back to you. My basic workflow is similar to what I've heard from other people. I frequently will look at some of the Lightroom presets. I don't usually use them, but I will look at them to get an idea of what a picture might look like turned to black and white. From there, I usually my process is usually to open the picture in Photoshop, because with Photoshop I can then do multiple layers of the NIC filters rather than opening and saving and opening and saving that you have to do if you do it directly from Lightroom. So I open it in Photoshop, and then I'll take the picture and I'll run it through Color Effects Pro 4. And quite frequently what I'll do there is I'll add tonal contrast. So I'll play with the sliders to get the best tonal contrast. I frequently will add to that a white neutralizer, and sometimes if I think the picture has some color cast, I'll add a third filter to filter out that color cast. Sometimes they conflict, so you have to play with them to find really the best solution. Once I'm happy, to get it again within Color Effects Pro 4, there's a black and white filter. So I'll quite frequently add the black and white filter while I'm working on it to get a sense of what the other filters are going to do to it when I get it into black and white. I'll turn the black and white filter off and then save the image, go back into Photoshop, and then load the image in Photoshop, load it back into Silver EFX Pro, and then start working on the various, looking at the different presets to see which ones I like. Quite frequently, I'm finding more and more often that it's best to just start with the neutral filter and then play with the various sliders more directly, because the presets are really all just variants of the slider that you have in the neutral, and so that gives you a little finer control over pushing the image to where you want to push it. Once I've got a good starting point in the black and white, then I'll look at doing some of the other things, like recently I've discovered film types. It can make a big difference in how that image is represented. The other thing that's really probably more important than film type, though, is the color filters, especially with an image like many of these where you've got a really a deep blue sky. By playing with the color filters and adding a red filter to a deep blue sky, you'll end up with an intense black sky, and it can be very stunning if that's the effect that you're trying to go for. Let me see if I have one of those. Yeah, okay, let's. So here you can see how deep black the sky has become. This was a very blue sky, and so by adding a red filter on a deep blue sky, you'll get this really intense black in your black and white. And the other, but I usually, depending if it's a woodland scene, the green and yellow filters may have a big impact. If there's a sunset or lots of red rocks and stuff, then the blue filter may produce some interesting effects. And then finally, after I'm done playing with the color filters, I'll go in and try the other the sepia filters, the selenium. Usually, I like either the selenium or the blue filters. They're segregated into 1, 2, and 3, and I'll generally select one of those. Now, and that's usually where I'm done with the photo. But sometimes, as with some other people I know, they'll do 2 or 3 different versions, and then they'll bring those 2 or 3 different versions back into Photoshop, and they'll layer those versions so that they can bring out different parts of the image that by allowing different filters in different parts of the image. Then it becomes quite complex, but you can get some very nice subtleties in how the image looks overall.
That one's gorgeous, Charles. I just love that.
Yeah,
and we're about halfway through.
Okay, I'm working on a new book. I don't know. It's really hard to get publishers to actually publish things. So I just talked with the publisher that published my first book, and they don't believe that there's a return on investment for this. So I have to try to find some backers or something, or maybe do something different to get another book actually published. It's very difficult, as you might expect. I might do it as an e-book, though. I've been looking into the possibility of producing an e-book of photographs of this church, which is, locally it's called the Red Church. You might recall the bright picture of the church, the bright red. Where is it? Yes, it's called the Église Rouge. So, for French speakers, it's actually Notre Dame de l'Assomption. But some other things to talk about. One of the things, that here back into screen share again. Maybe I should stay in screen share. Here is one of the images from a recent assignment within our black and white photography learning community, which is called 52 Shades of Gray. And there's a 52 Shades of Gray page where people can express an interest in joining the community. We'll be starting a 2014 version here probably mid-December to start getting people up to speed on how things work, the logistics, that sort of thing. But here is an assignment where we did high key, low key, and normal. And one of the interesting things here is the histogram function from within Silver EFX Pro. As you can see the little histogram in the top left corner. What this histogram tells you is the distribution of your tones within the image. And so for the high key image, you can see that the tones are in the high end of the histogram. The normal distribution puts the tones around the mid gray. And the low key image, this one could probably be even lower than that. The low key image, your main tones are below mid gray. But one of the interesting things here for black and white photographers is to recognize that what's going on here is this is a digital application of Ansel Adams' zone system. And this is a very important thing, especially if you've been in black and white photography for a long time and understand a little bit about the zone system, realizing that Silver EFX Pro actually brings the power of the zone system to your photography is a very, very powerful tool that you can use to go into your images, use control points, and tweak the image so that you have really good tonal control. Now, one tip on doing that is if you're going to print your images, you do not want pure white, because what happens is if you have any areas of your image, this hopefully not too high end here, but if you have any pure white areas in your image, means no ink will be applied to that, which means that whatever paper you're printing on it is showing through, and so you end up with a portion of your image that doesn't look right because it's got this extra glare to it from the paper that's underneath. So one of the things that you can use to help your images, if you're going to do some printing, is you can go in and you can adjust zone 10 to not exist within your photograph. It's really very powerful. It's something that I only discovered and really experimented with in the last few months. So, Now, one of the other things I would like to say, I like to tell people, I guess, is that in this day and age in digital photography, nothing is real. So whenever I look at anything, I'm always looking at it to say, so how much of that is reality? And, we come back to the idea of looking at an image in color or looking at it in black and white. And when, to me, maybe black and white was a reaction to all of the super saturated images that I see everywhere. And, that kind of bothers me because I begin to think, if I can't say it in black and white, then I can't really say it, because then color is the only thing that becomes important, and I don't want color to be the message. I want the shape, the form, I want the light, the dark, the contrast, the edge contrast, all of those kinds of things to bring the image to life. If the color is needed to bring the image to life, then it's about the color and not about the composition. That's just how I look at it. So to me, black and white has really become at the heart of all of my work processes. Let's see. I have to actually let's see another image. Here's this image of the front of the church. And again, here's the color version. Things aren't what they appear to be. There's different layers going on, adding things that didn't exist, taking things out. And let's see another good example of. This one that you liked, Margaret. This is another good example of nothing is real. I took the other image where I didn't really like the cloud structure, took a cloud from a different long exposure that I did like, and added it to this image. So like I say, I'm not always sure that I want to really tell people how these images are created, but here's another one with an interesting workflow. Here's the original, just a generic conversion here of a swan. This guy was really, he swam and practically bit me in the knee. But so yeah, he was curious about what I was doing there. So, but this time, rather than doing the kind of process that I talked about earlier with Color Effects Pro 4 and Pro Contrast and some other filters, I did this one with a cross-process filter. And you can see it's given it this really weird coloring. Okay, but when you take that really weird coloring into Silver EFX Pro, it highlights different areas that you might not have gotten highlighted if you had just done a straight conversion. So I find it very, very handy to play with things like Silver EFX Pro and some of the other filters in color before I take it to the final black and white conversion. Now this goes even further. You can see this. This first step in the black and white, it's lacking some definition. You can't see the eye. The beak's a bit too dark. So I've gone in that and added a layer. I've done some, burning things in and dodging things to bring out various areas. And then I've applied the Dragan effect to this. And people should look up the Dragan effect if they're not familiar with it. A lot of the several of the very, very well-known photographers on G+ that do a lot of portrait work use the Dragan effect. In particular, both Mike Shaw and Alan Shapiro use the Dragan effect quite often to get that really gritty, deep, it really brings feeling to the image. As you can see, the black and white conversion down here doesn't have much feeling, but here you can really sense the malice almost of the swan. The personality is really comes to the forefront by applying this Dragan effect. So it's a very powerful effect to be able to go in and really give some strong feeling to some of your images. See, do I have anything else that's nothing is real? No, but here's another image I did.
We have about 5 minutes remaining, Charles.
Okay. Okay, I'm good. We were talking before about color and black and white and doing those things. I can't remember the specific reference, but here's when I look at a scene, I now think, okay, what is the essence of this scene? If I strip the color out, what is left? I have to work with composition. I have to work with things like the rule of thirds and symmetry and lines and shapes and forms and negative space and positive space and all of these kinds of ideas of composition. They become so much more important. So the assignment for this picture was, how do I represent autumn? I mean, autumn is color. Autumn is leaves changing colors. And so it's a very interesting exercise to say to yourself, how do I represent autumn, which is a color intense period of the year? How do I do this in black and white? What can I show that says this is autumn? Well, this stack of pumpkins, there's no doubt about it in my mind, this says autumn. Now, a couple other things. Let's see. Get my OneNote up here. I thought this was it's not large enough. Let me see if I can really enlarge. No, I don't know how to do it quickly enough. Maybe heading 1. Okay, I found this at the World Photo Awards website, and the World Photo Award 2014 is coming up at the end of the year. The deadline's near the end of the year, and people should be thinking about that if they want to enter one of the large international prestigious competitions like the IPA, only I think the World Photography Organization Awards are sponsored by Sony, and they're even bigger. But anyway, I thought this was a particularly wonderful quote by Monica Suter, and she says that photographers don't really spend enough time developing their vision and researching other things in the photographic community and executing their vision with superior technical skills. And then she goes on to say, so what's left? You know, what makes us unique? What makes them different than anybody else? And that's really the question that you need to ask yourself with your photography. Are you developing a vision? Are you understanding what do you want to do with your photography? Are you looking at the places that you want to go? You know, so many times I come back from a trip and I say, darn, I really wished I'd have looked at Google before I went out there. Because I see all these really super photos, and I say, damn, I was only 30 feet from that spot. You know, I should have gotten that shot, but I didn't take the time to really research the area that I was going to. And I guess I kind of like to be spontaneous, but you know, you've got to balance that with you know, getting the shot. Now, just
Charles,
a couple.
We have one other question here, and from Rashawn, and it is my understanding when digital cameras convert color photos to black and white, there is more versatility in altering the black and white image color balance in Photoshop. Is that correct? So that's a question there.
Well, you know, that's my opinion, yes. I shoot everything in RAW and then do the conversions. If you're doing an in-camera conversion, if you're allowing the camera to do the conversion, then it's an engineer someplace at a camera who works for a camera manufacturer where the engineering and marketing department is deciding what that image should look like after it's been processed. So yeah, you can get some really nice processing in camera, but it's never going to be what you could have done yourself if you understand the tools. So I think that answers that.
Thank you, Charles.
Yeah. Okay, I know I'm just about out of time, so I would like to, one last thing, I would like to remind people to have a look at Joel Chintalar's page. If they haven't circled Joel, they're missing a treat. Joel is an architectural photographer, probably one of the best known architectural photographers here on Google+. And Joel has a free a video that he did for our black and white photography community that he shared globally with Google+. And it's a tremendous view into Joel's workflow, how he creates his award-winning images. And also a plug for Joel's masterclass in photography, which I think it's something like 15 or 20 hours worth of video that you can subscribe to. It's really super. So, you know, Joel's, it's a good place to get more understanding of black and white photography and architectural photography. You know, I want to say part of the reason I like Joel's work, more than just his work, is his philosophy, and his philosophy is creating vision. And that's what we need to be thinking about, is how do we create a vision, how do we create our vision. And black and white photography, to me, is part of creating that vision. And the reason it's part of creating the vision is because when you take a color picture, it's a color picture. And you could, if it's a decent picture, you might be able to share it as is. But in a black and white image, once you strip the color away, you've already moved one step away from reality. And it's in moving away from reality that you start to create your own vision. So, and I'll leave it there, unless somebody wants to some other question.
I think we're done with the questions, Charles. Thank you very much. And so now we come to a part of the show where we have our photographers to watch. So Jim Westman, we'll go right to you, and we'll see some of the great shots of photographers we're all liking you to circle.
Sounds good. And I'd first like to thank Charles very much. Great presentation.
Awesome.
Learned a lot, actually.
Amazing, Charles.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So let me share my screen. And my recommended photographer is Robert Becker. He's based in eastern Pennsylvania, does quite a wide variety of work, color and monochrome, does a lot of landscapes from the northeast U.S. and other areas. You'll see some macro work also in his stream. But very nice work. I encourage you to go take a look and circle them if you like what you see. And next, Charles, we go to your recommendation.
Peter has quite a large variety of black and white landscape photos. Just a wonderful stream. When I was looking for somebody to recommend being the monochrome landscape show, I wanted to find somebody who had a lot of monochrome landscape images in their stream, and Peter has some beautiful, beautiful images. It doesn't hurt that this image of Crater Lake was one of the first images of his that I saw when looking at a stream, because we're seriously looking to move to Bend, Oregon, which is only about 50 miles away from Crater Lake.
All right.
Maybe 80 miles, but it's next door. So.
And there's your second one from Peter.
So maybe next year I'll have some Crater Lake pictures of my own.
Well, how great to have you in the United States. That would be awesome.
Well, it'd be a lot easier to do Hangouts.
Well, it would.
Okay.
And you could probably do some workshops that we could come and attend.
Yeah, I've been already looking at the competition in the Bend area, and it's a magnificent area of Central Oregon, because you've got several of the beautiful Pacific Northwest volcanoes are close by. You've got Crater Lake. You've got that famous waterfall that nobody can pronounce the name of down along the Columbia River Gorge. I see pictures of it all the time. Just
Great.
a beautiful, beautiful area. So
Keep us posted on that.
yeah.
Okay, let's see. Kara.
Okay, this photograph is Marcus Landman, and he is in Cologne, Germany, and he really has an amazing touch with getting the black and whites and also his color photography, but he really represents his area in Cologne really amazing. So, and then just the different perspectives of the cathedral here with the great variation, the great contrast of the light. And so Marcus Landsman, and he will be in the circle, so you'll all be able to circle him and follow his work in Cologne, Germany.
Great.
I love those twinkling lights.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And Margaret.
This was also Marcus.
No, this is
Here.
No, Steve. Steve Holderfield is up.
Yeah, here's Steve Holderfield. He's the one that I had recommended, or the show starter. Steve, I think, only has like 48 people following him. Now, he's quite an accomplished photographer, but he's new to Google+. So get in on the ground floor and circle him. He tells a story of when he was taking this photograph. There were like 25 other people lined up taking the same shot. I would love to know if those other 25 people came away with anything near as good as this. But it's just a gorgeous capture. A beautiful black and white photograph there.
It'd be a Christmas card. It's so pretty.
Wouldn't it be a fantastic Christmas card? It's just gorgeous. But he does wonderful work. and he's a real estate person from Northern California. But great photographer.
Thanks, Margaret. And let's see, next to Tom.
Yes, I picked R.J. Wilner as a photographer to look at. I've chosen two of his monochrome shots here. The first one is clouds, but he also does a lot of great work in color as well. Now, what makes R.J. interesting, if you look at his profile shot, you can see he's just a wee lad, so he's certainly got a lot of talent at a young age. I'd like to suggest that perhaps that's not a recent picture, but anyway, I certainly enjoy his work. And here's the second one from the Missouri Mines Historical Site. Margaret, I believe he might live in Missouri.
That would probably be the Rolla area, which is southwest Missouri.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And Kevin?
Yeah, this is Gerard Blacklock, and he's got a lot of great photography. He's out of Sydney. So go ahead and go to the next one. And he does a lot of great long exposure, and he has a lot of great color as well as black and white. So I think everyone will enjoy his work, and check him out.
Super. All right, thank you. And now we come back. And that's it. So, Cara, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. So we went to appreciate and tell all of you who stayed with us in with all of our gremlins that we love and sincerely appreciate how you participate in our events and to participate in the landscape photography theme page also, because we have added a brand new feature where Kevin Rowe will be creating a video from the pictures that are featured on the landscape photography theme page. So be sure and circle the landscape photography theme page and our landscape photography show if you want comments on your event posts. And we want to invite you to our next episode, which will be December 3rd, and our guest will be Dan Hughes from the Google Nick software suite, and I saw Brian Dukes and Richard Kramer talking about it, and Kevin, I think you mentioned that there's a 30-day trial period, so people may want to try the Nick software for 30 days prior to the event and come over and post your photos and learn together. So we really are looking forward to that on December 3rd, and on December 17th we will have our equipment wish list. So you'll be able to share some of the things you'd like to see, maybe for some holiday giving or just for the 2014 years. So we want to thank you again, Charles, for coming and getting up so early. 2:15, he was online. We were in the green room, and then everything went nuts with Google Gremlins. And anyway, so thank you for hanging in there with us and getting up and really making this monochrome event very special. And please check out Charles's community, 52 Shades of Gray, and it will be on the show notes so people will be able to connect with you, Charles. So thank you again. We'll be seeing you, and have a great week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good morning.